Let's do this on a beautiful Sunday morning. Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff is on your radio or wherever you are choosing to listen today, wherever you are listening from. We appreciate you. My goodness, the sun is shining in Nashville. Titans are in Cleveland. Brownie the Elf is painted on the midfield logo. Buck's already tweeted a picture. Buck Reising will join the rest of us soon from Cleveland. Kayla Anderson is here rocking her Phillies hat today from her recent trip to Philadelphia. Blaine Bishop is here rocking his Titans gear. Blaine in his camouflage Titans hat, and every time you wear that on the live stream, 5 people to 10 or to 15 say, "Hey, Hitman, where can I get a hat like that?"
Right?
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing.
It looks good.
No, this was last year when it rained at a game, and I was doing the NFL policy, and the Titans
Hey, I don't think your mic is on. Can we get the Hitman plugged in over here? There we go.
Oh, man,
it sounded
Give the
good
Hitman a
now.
hit there.
Sounding
There we
good.
go.
Yeah, it sounded good, but it rained at a game last year, and the Titans gave me a hat.
I like it.
So I didn't.
Usually
So
you-
I wouldn't melt
Looks
away.
clean.
Yeah, the equipment guys. I have to thank them because I begged them for a hat.
It's Eddie George's birthday, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Heck
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Yes, he having a big shindig. Private party.
Oh, dang.
Right. Dang it. I know Blaine got the invite.
Our invite got lost in the mail,
He
Kayla.
knows. I hope he's not listening. I don't think he knows either. Uh-oh.
Hopefully he's not listening.
Oh,
Man.
man. I think he's got a lot of other things to do.
You know, I'm a big fan of his wife.
Oh, yeah, Taj. Mhm.
Because I was a huge SWV fan growing up.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I'm a bigger fan of Taj than Eddie.
Oh, so dang, we were in the same era then.
I'm a big fan of both of them. I'm a big fan of Lee Company.
Yeah.
The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. We can visit with Buck Reising now because he joins us via the phones from Cleveland. Buck, I've already seen your picture of the stadium there and all those bright orange seats and the little elf at midfield. Looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day in Cleveland, Ohio today.
Yeah, no, it's as seasonable as Cleveland in September could be. Lows are mid 60s right now, and no sign of any kind of adverse weather. But we know, given the proximity to the lake, that might change at any given point. But right now, perfect conditions for a fun football game.
Ooh, there you go. Weather brought to you by Buck Reising and Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, who's offering cost-effective solutions like free service calls with their repairs and low monthly payments on those repairs. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, available anytime at springhillac.com. Buck, what a natural segue that was for you to just do the weather. We appreciate it. Game 3, Titans with a huge home OT last week win. Nick Folk kicked one through the rain and through 8 months or 10 months, actually, of despair for Titans fans as they got their first regular season win in a long time. It's time to build on that now, guys. Like I said, 10 months since the last time this team left the field with a regular season win. Buck, I'll start with you. Let's start with the play of Ryan Tannehill. What a bounce back for him. His second highest completion percentage ever in a game. Need to see more of that version of the Titans quarterback today.
Certainly, efficiency is going to be the key. 20 of 24 last week, and 2 of those accounting for drops. It does not account for the sacks that he did take. There were 5 total sacks in the game, and I think you could fairly attribute 3 to the offensive line and probably 2 to the quarterback. The most egregious being that 13-yard loss that he took on the busted screen. That can happen today. This Browns defense doesn't give up or hasn't been getting a lot of sacks specifically, but the pressure is obviously there. Pittsburgh couldn't get within 30 yards of them, couldn't get inside the 30 on Monday Night Football. They're making teams throw it away. The pressure is obvious and consistent. And Jim Schwartz, who we all know well, I know you guys know him even better than I do, from your time here across the years and his multiple stints here now in Tennessee before becoming the Browns defensive coordinator. We know that Ryan Tannehill is going to be under duress. We know the offensive line situation, as I'm sure we'll discuss throughout the course of the pregame show. But Ryan Tannehill's efficiency is going to be key. They know Derrick Henry's coming. Can they get a better version of Ryan Tannehill to kind of keep them off balance?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with Ryan Tannehill is, first of all, I don't think any of his teammates nor the coaches were surprised with the bounce back from last week. I think I came on here and said, Chigakonkwo was like, we didn't really blink, right? We knew that he was going to come back and have a performance at least better than the first one, which was out of character for Ryan Tannehill, and he did that. I find it interesting because I think what Tannehill needs to do in this game as he continues to get comfortable with this offensive line, who, mind you, by the way, will still have Dylan Radins in there because Peter Skoronski will not be playing as he's still recovering from that appendectomy. But I think the more and more he gets comfortable with the line in front of him, the more he's able to just be Ryan Tannehill. And that's what he needs to be, right? He doesn't need to be crazy, huge numbers. But I will say this, the Titans are 25-4 in games. Tannehill has a 100-yard passer rating since he joined the team in 2019. And that's a good statistic, right? That's not going to happen every single time, but I think if Ryan continues to take care of the football, which Mike Vrabel continues to stress, make good decisions, they have enough weapons on this team, including now this duo of Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, that they can win this ball game. I think it's going to be low scoring, but Ryan just needs to be Ryan.
Well, you got to look at every individual opponent, and this team has Cleveland Browns have a really good defense. Different style, but somewhat similar as far as talent on their defense with their front, as well as in the secondary. So I'm interested to see how Tim Kelly and Tannehill evolve this offense, and does it continue to grow against a really good defense, which is hard. And when you watch some of the mismatches, it seems like they do. I guess the Browns defense isn't as equipped to go against the smaller, quicker backs. And I say that because Najee Harris last week, and then when they put in the other back from the Steelers, who I can't even name his name, he did much better. So I'm interested to see how that parlays and if that's consistent with the Titans and Henry with Spears, as Kayla was talking about a little bit there. So I'm really Tannehill's play and the play calling is continuing to grow. I didn't expect him to, not have another good game. He was rusty. He hadn't played for a long time. That's why I wanted him to play in the preseason. Yep. So now now I just don't want him to turn the football over. Going to great defense, they're not going to have probably maybe the numbers unless somebody slips and falls and everything else. But he has to be efficient, as you mentioned there, Buck, and don't turn the ball over, and then see where this defense lies against their offense, I think, is key. Because are the Titans' defense elite enough? We keep talking about, they're elite. No, their front is elite.
Yeah.
You're right.
Everything else behind there, the linebackers, they're good. They're not elite now. So let's see which defense performs the best. That don't mean on any given day you don't outperform the other defense. So that and Schwartzy and the chess match, I'm loving to watch and see how Kelly goes against them, because I think there's some things that Kelly does that it's going to work against Schwartzy's defense. Me having a little insight there playing for Schwartzy.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a little insight. I'm not going to get
No, come on, man.
I was
I'm
waiting
not
for
gonna get no exit.
the tea there.
That's boring. When I start going deep into football,
No,
then
that is
now I
not
lose
boring.
people.
That's the
so,
good stuff,
I
man.
learned that all from John McClain. Don't get too Xy and OZ. People get lost. They're not going to follow.
Hey,
you, so.
OZ and XE is really dang sexy, man. You
Yeah.
just drop it.
Exactly.
Trademark that.
I
better
Memo yourself, trademark that on T-shirt.
Dion trademarked everything.
That's true.
After his getting walloped. That was expected, so all the haters will come out. They're not ready they're not even ready for USC. USC's not as good as Oregon, so we can go on another tangent. But, come on. Dion, he's done a great job at this point in time. Come on.
Buck Reising, any rebuttal to all of that? Did you catch Dion and Cruz butt whipping last night?
Yeah, I was like Travis Hunter. I started playing video games about 20-0.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. As expected, though, right? What was Oregon was
21
favored by 20.
points,
No,
I
that's
think.
absolutely expected. Anybody who's been paying attention to
in
college
Oregon?
football this year understood
You
that
know
the
this game,
secondary.
right?
Yep. That was no surprise.
Yeah, no, the secondary for Colorado is bad objectively, and with Travis Hunter is enough to cover up some of it and make highlight plays. But yeah, I don't think that was overwhelmingly shocking to anybody, but people who are trying to get a rise out of Dion.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
What they're forgetting, they're not playing Dion, they're playing Colorado.
Yes,
exactly.
He happens to be there, but yes.
Right. But that's what happens when you open your mouth and you start blabbing. He didn't do too much blabbing this week now, so he knew what he was up against.
Yeah.
I said
Come on
that
now.
same thing.
You people got to read the tea leaves. He wasn't talking about nothing about anything besides, hey, this is a good team. He knew they didn't have enough. They don't have enough yet.
It's not from his lack of trying, boy. What was it, 70 new people he brought in over there or something like that?
Just about.
Yeah, I thought it was 80.
Maybe it was 80.
That
I lost count as
Yeah.
we got into multiple amounts of players leaving there. So, who's playing for the Titans today? We'll get into all that. We got lots to get into as the Titans are in Cleveland to face the Browns today at noon. You can hear all the action and all the pregame and postgame action right here on the Zone. As Buck mentioned, there's a lot of eyes on the offensive line. Let's get into the Titans offense next. Let's talk about what they have to do to try to beat Myles Garrett and crew, a fantastic Browns defense who is good against the pass and good against the run and really good against both. We appreciate our friends at Lee Company for putting this program on. Lee Company, all you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Lee Cutman and Countdown to Kickoff. Appreciate you hanging out with us on this Sunday. You can participate in the show if you want to. 615-737-1045. That will get you on here. Kayla Anderson and Blaine Bishop and Mickey Ryan and Buck Reising should be joining us soon. Lee Company makes this show happen. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Buck kind of hinted at this in the top segment in his opening salvo from the Browns Stadium. Titans offensive line will have a big challenge today against Myles Garrett and the Jim Schwartz-led Browns defense. They will not have Peter Skoronski. Kayla, we counted on you to say appendectomy in the first segment, so we appreciate you getting that done for us.
You're welcome.
But the offensive line does have a resurgent, Dylan Radins. One Dylan Radins should probably get the start today, I would imagine, in place of Peter Skoronski. But got to protect Ryan Tannehill. It would be great to see the offense get a fast start, but it would be great to see them protect Ryan Tannehill. He's been sacked quite a few times. I think, as Buck alluded to, 5-6 more times last week. So, see, we've got Buck back on the line with us. Buck, you hinted about the offensive line and their role today, but, boy, they do have a big task in front of them to keep Ryan Tannehill as clean as they can and clear some running lanes to have a chance to win today in Cleveland.
Yeah, so Kayla mentioned earlier it's Radins for Skoronski at left guard today. The Andre Dillard experiment continues to have less than satisfactory returns. They were good enough, certainly, against the Chargers, but this is a better defensive front, as we know. And it's not just pass pro. They know, and like Blaine can speak to this better than I can, but they know that they have deficiencies at their left tackle and potentially on the left side of their offensive line. They are going to understand that they have to go into this game with a kind of plan that's going to mitigate the damage that Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith and those guys can do, because those ends don't switch. You know you're going to have Myles Garrett against Andre Dillard. You know you're going to have Zadarius Smith against Chris, the right tackle. I'm blanking out. Hubbard. I wanted to call him Hubert for a second. That's not right. But it's not just the pass pro. Like, they need to run block better. I know Derek, had better usage. The efficiency's not ever going to be great with Derek. I mean, there are times when he breaks those explosive plays. Those aren't happening outside of screens as often anymore. At least in the last, we'll call it a season and a half, and so far through 2 games, they have to run block better in front of Derek and Spears today. If that's going to be a threat, we know that the Browns are going to understand that Derrick Henry's coming. It's just a matter of how creative can Tim Kelly be in their protection plan. It's not just the offensive line isn't just a protection plan. It's what plays do you have in place to get the ball out quickly? How often are you going to use tight ends and receivers to chip and help as you see fit, because help will be required today. The offensive line has been passable thus far, but they are going to need to continue to find ways to improve together. One hopes that the more time that they play together, that cohesion grows. But right now, it kind of is what we expected it to be.
Yeah, I spoke to Daniel Brunskill earlier this week in the locker room. First of all, talk about a guy that will give you thoughtful answers and take time to talk to you, because it's hard sometimes to get these offensive linemen, right? We spoke about.
Well, it's hard to get Andre Dillard.
A tough one.
It's not hard to get the rest of them. It's hard to get
Aaron Brewer's not in there all the time either. But yeah, Daniel Brunskill will give you a thoughtful answer, and that he did. And when I was talking about just an honest kind of breakdown of what he thinks of this line so far, he pretty much said, we're 2 weeks into the season, we have to continue to find that gel. And it is a little bit difficult to do when you have, your starter and Peter Skoronski out. But for the most part, Dylan did a good job when he did come in last week, considering he is not too far removed from that ACL. And he said, but look, it's not going to be perfect, but we have to continue to break down the film and look at what we're doing that's not passing, right? We've got to get better at those things, and it's not going to be perfect for probably a few weeks, and even then, there's going to have some chinks in the armor. But I appreciated the fact that he was truthful about it, that they continue to work. And Buck, you brought up Andre Dillard on that left side. And yeah, it's still a question, right? And I think people have been wondering this week, now that they saw a little bit of Dylan Radins, like, could we maybe see some changes down the road if he continues to not develop in that position? And he hasn't played a ton of football, right?
No.
He hasn't played a ton of football since being the first round pick in 2019. But how much time do they give him? I don't know. For right now, he's a left tackle. But I will say this about Dylan Radins. That's a good thing to have him now back, just for the depth perspective. And if they need to be versatile moving forward, they can use him, because it looks like he is really confident, something I have not seen from him in the past. But in this game, you're right, Buck. This defensive front, and it's not just Myles Garrett, right? Everything about this defense up front, on the back end, they're barely giving up anything on the ground or through the air. And so they're going to have to continue to do their job, this offensive line, if they're going to have any sort of Derrick Henry and Tajay getting going.
Yeah, you guys are talking about Dillard. How many sacks have he given up? See how we all pause? Nobody. So he's done a satisfactory job, and guess what? You're getting your bang for your buck. How much is he making? $7 million. What, you got to expect a $14 million player? No, you're not going to get that kind of player. So right now, as the offense continues to gel, is it great? Is he doing a great job? No, I can't say anybody on the offensive line is doing a great job. I could say they're all doing a satisfactory job, considering we're comparing them to last season. So I would say they're doing an okay job. We will get to see against some elite players, and that's the whole big question is, how can you hold up against an elite player like Myles Garrett? Well, here's what will happen. Mr. Westco will be in blocking. He will be chipping. Running backs will be chipping. So how much will they have to do that and rely on that in part of the game plan? Sometimes you come in with two game plans when you're the coordinator and say, hey, these are our adjustments. Or do you go out there and say, we're going to start it off this way? So then they hesitate on their rushing, and then we'll help him out. Then we'll kind of play this cat and mouse game, and we just line him up there, and he's still running out, or he's a safety valve for Tannehill. So that's more so what I'm looking for. I don't think our coaches are incompetent, because they're not going to leave him out there by himself with one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Yeah. So, he's going to have, to me, at some point, he's going to be alone. And he's going to have to learn how to anchor, because he's been getting bull rushed back to the pocket. Now, we could say he's given up some hurries, but sacks, I just don't feel like he's given up a lot of sacks at this point in time. As a matter of fact, I would bet it's probably less than 2 in 2 games, or maybe even less than that. I haven't even looked at his stats that way. But he's given up some pressures and some bull rushes, which is, I think, the bull rush is really his weakest link, and he just learning how to anchor there, and they've been pushed back into Tannehill, and Tannehill gets flushed a little bit out of the pocket. But I think he's doing an okay job considering what he's getting paid and the value of what he's worth, regardless of experience or not. The expectations are, we paid you to be the starter, you should be doing adequate, and he's doing adequate.
Yeah, and I think Ramon Foster.
And you brought up Wesco with the protection plan, Blaine. He has to be clean. They have to be cleaner operationally, right? The false starts.
That's killing me.
And I'm almost willing to forgive the drop, because he's not, he's a human creature, all right? Like, they have him out there to block. Like, the receiving element of his game, he's been in the league for a long time. He doesn't have that many receptions. There's a reason. But, like, if you are in there to help with the run blocking, with the pass protection plan, then you cannot commit it's only been 3 so far, but still 3 in 2 games is too many.
Ramon Foster brought up on the show, and he's actually brought this up a couple of times, because in the F&M Bake Chat, we always get folks that, want to say, well, Dillard's not the answer. And to what you were saying, Blaine, he did mention, look, optics-wise, they look at him and the way that he's blocking, and maybe the feet aren't getting set and he's moving back, like you said. That's kind of like the way that Dillard does things, and that needs to be better, right? But optics-wise, I think it looks a lot worse than maybe what it is, because you're right. I don't know if he's necessarily giving
I care
up.
about results.
But this is what people look at that and say, hey, that's not,
and that's what we're here
he looks bad.
To explain it to them that optics doesn't matter. It's results that actually matter. So I don't like it either, to be honest. I like, dang, he's gonna get him. And then, figure out, so at the same time, there's, fans have panic buttons where I'm kind of more looking at how everything is working together with the timing and everything else. And he's doing an adequate job. I'm sure he'll say he could do better. I'm sure the coaches would, but all the players would say that. Yep. Do we know how many sacks he's given up yet?
I think Buck and his crack research staff in Cleveland are discussing it right now.
Oh.
Maybe if Robbie Boren walks by, you can ask him, Buck. He can
Well,
give it to you.
we're trying to figure out where the hell the second bus is with said quarterback on it, because the first bus has been here for about a half hour. Just Browns are starting to ride, and we still haven't seen Ryan Tannehill. So, TBD.
Oh, I was always on that first
Okay.
bus, man. Like taking my time.
On the first bus.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's no way I could have sat in a hotel room on a game day
No,
morning. I would have been like, when's the first bus leave? Yeah, I would have been on
What
the
is
first
Tanny showing up in a Corvette or something?
Well, maybe he's going to scooter over there. He needs to be on his scooter today, though, because talking about this, our buddy Jordan DeJani told us this week on the Blaine and Mickey show, the Browns' average time to pressure is 2.1 seconds. That's the fastest of any team in the NFL. So they do get there fast. So it'll be interesting to see. Tannehill gets moved around. Can he get that extra half second or a few hundredths of a second that he needs? But, boy, this Browns defense does get there fast.
Hey, Mickey.
Kayla just got to say the 3
He's
sacks.
given up 3.
3 sacks, and now that's 3 in a game now. Was he getting – see, that's through – is that through PFF or if that's through a stat through the Titans?
It is. It is through PFF.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Because the one was with Newman when they looped around and they gave him the charge sack, and that
Fair.
wasn't his fault.
Fair.
Right. See, so so he's
Absolutely.
really only giving up 2 sacks according to the coaches. I guarantee it. And so 2 sacks, 1 sack in a game, you go, okay. Is it great? No. Is it okay?
Well, you guys mentioned them not playing much. He and Hubbard both played less than 40 plays all of last season.
I know y'all keep saying that. I don't give a crap.
That's just crazy
I
to me,
don't
though.
care,
Yeah,
though.
they
I
both
don't
played
care.
more in the
You
first
are
game than
now
they did in the
starting,
previous
nobody
season.
goes back and say, oh, this guy hasn't played. Nobody cares about that.
So the
Not no
rust has gotta
fan,
be
no-
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody cares. You get
Oh, no,
paid a
I'm
lot of dollars
100%
to
with-
do your job.
I'm 100% with Blaine. Deshaun Watson just walked in here. They're paying him $230 million. He's had 8 games to figure it out and
And
hasn't.
I'm like,
yet.
no.
Yeah.
He's playing like
You're
crap.
paid to perform.
Yeah, he has played like crap, that's for sure. Let's switch to the running backs a little bit. The mix of Derek and Tajay, we've seen it kind of 2 different ways the first 2 games of the season. Derek got the bulk of carries last week. Titans needed to run the ball and run the clock. They did just that. Tajay was very effective when he was used. Guys, I'll be very curious to see today how this combo gets used. It's great to have both of them, 2 different guys. It'll be really neat to see how it works out.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we saw last week was just indicative of how the game played out, how they were able to get Derrick Henry more involved late, how the game felt like it was more in their control than it was against L.A. I think we can all agree that 5 second-half carries for Derrick Henry is too few generally, even though they had a game plan that was sufficient to beat the Saints, and the quarterback melted down, and we don't need to rehash the results of that at this point. But as they try and figure this out in the early going, because this is not something that they've had the preseason for, right? The deployment of the skill position players, and particularly how they're going to structure this running back situation. As we monitor this, you saw the percentage of snaps that Tajay Spears got as opposed to Derrick Henry decrease, as opposed to him getting 54% of the offensive snaps in New Orleans. That's going to happen when you're playing an average 3rd down distance of 3rd and 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an obvious passing situation. That is not something Derrick Henry is going to be in the ballgame for. That is the explanation for Tajay Spears and the higher snap count in game 1. So, I think for people who are paying attention to those things or who are looking at snap counts after the fact, keep the flow of the game and the situational football that they're in context. And that'll give you the best explanation as to why the running backs are being used the way they are.
Well, that's exactly what Tim Kelly said this week, right? We were, listening to his press conference. He talks every Thursday, and somebody had asked him, how are you going to keep track of that, or will you keep track of that? And he said, honestly, we're going to go with how the flow of the game goes. And I really think that that's the best decision. I think with the Todd Downing offense, that wouldn't be the case. Because, again, I just don't know if he ever had that natural ability of play calling in a flow of things, right? Everything was so dictated. So I think that's the best thing with this offense, with these 2 guys right now. And it's still a work in progress. Like, what we've seen so far has been really fun to watch, and it's given us a little bit more of a variety than we've seen in the past, because you actually have a back that is a rookie that's actually doing things. They've tried to draft that in the past, and it hasn't worked out well. But this is a Browns offense or defense that I mentioned. It's only allowing 75 yards rushing per game.
Yeah.
3.75 yards per attempt. They're stingy as heck, right? Just as stingy as the Titans defense is. So it's going to be a task, but it's going to be all about what Tim Kelly said, just the flow of the game and when he thinks things are right for those situations.
That's put a lot of trust in Tim Kelly, by
Yeah.
the way, Blaine. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
you know, as we try and learn more about this guy, I don't know that I'm comfortable outright deferring to him just yet. This is a wait and see process. Go ahead, Blaine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No, I agree. I like Tim Kelly's offense. I've gone back and watched numerous games when he's with the Texans calling, and he's doing exactly the same thing. I like the first game. Did I like the results? No. But did I like I like the way he is running his offense, stacking plays, setting up plays, and he is actually, right. He's telling us the truth, what Kayla just said. He is saying the game, here's what he's saying, the game will dictate how much Derrick Henry's going to play in this game. Because if we get behind the chains early, he's not going to be out there a lot. The game dictates. So then all the fans are looking at is, he didn't get 15, 20 touches. No, well, the game didn't dictate that he does get that many touches because we now have a new piece, a new toy. Guess what? This toy is dynamic is the word that we need to put behind Spears. He is dynamic. They need a dynamic receiver. And once they get that, then all of a sudden it can turn nothing into something. And so that's what this player does. And sometimes he looks like he should be tackled for a 2-yard gain and gets 6 yards or a 2-yard loss. So that's what he's really trying to say. And once we, get ahead of the chains, now it's more of a Derrick Henry style type game. So that's what's going to be interesting to follow all along the season. Everybody's just looking at the touches. Eventually, as long as we're winning, nobody's going to care about the touches. But him not getting the touches means that the game didn't go the flow that they wanted as much, which is, at least Derrick Henry getting 20 touches. And that's, by the way, for me, the comfort level. And that's not just running the football. That's also catches too. So I just think they're going to try to make sure that he gets those kind of touches. But if the game changes and they have to be a little more pass oriented, I think they will. And he may not get as much touches. He may not even be on the field as much.
Well, Blaine, that was the first thing you pointed out after the Saints game. We were all talking about touches, and you said, look, if they'd been up in the fourth quarter, he would got all the touches he could ever imagine. It's just the game didn't go that way for him.
I thought the game was the same, except Tannehill missed those shots, and then then Derrick Henry would have got his touches.
Yes,
it would have been the same as the second game
if he maybe hits even one of them, as you said. Right. Then Derrick Henry's going to salt the game away in the fourth quarter.
It's over.
So there's 25 carries. D-Hop played less snaps last week, guys, while nursing an injury, but he was effective. He came up big, especially on the last drive. He had 3 first downs on 4 catches. There are reports that he's playing today. I'll be interested to see what he can do. I know the Browns are down a cornerback. They'll be without Greg Newsome, who's a good player, really good player and a starter for this team. But, Buck, hopefully that can, if Tannehill can have a little time to throw, hopefully D-Hop and Burks and Chig and the crew can get some stuff going.
Well, Blaine, can I ask you, do you think, I don't know that we know this necessarily, but just based on how well you know Jim Schwartz, do you think he will be as likely to blitz, given that Greg Newsome isn't out there? That's a really, really good cover corner that's allowed them to hold up on the back end and allowed them to send that additional pressure on top of getting home with 4. Do you think that will impact his decision at all?
Well, I wish I could be in Jim Schwartz's head, then I'd be a genie in the bottle. But, here's one thing about coaching is their style is their style. Mm-hmm. So whether who's ever out there, they're going to still continue to do what they do best and what he thinks is fit. Now, this is one thing I love about, Schwartzy, man. He is really a great chess player within the game. Sometimes you think he's going to do certain things. He comes out and gives you the illusion that he's doing one thing and he's not. Like everybody's talking about, the front four and just let him get after it. And we got some cover guys. He may start doing zone blitz schemes, give you the illusion that you have 4 to one side, and next there's 4 to the other side, and then somebody's dropping. So you really, that first series to me, like first 15 block of plays by an offense will kind of determine what he sees and what our offense sees against him to see what his plan is of attack of different different formations, and that's what happens at the beginning of a game. So I have no idea. That's why I really like watching it the first couple series, how the offense is implementing their style of offense against this defense, and then how this defense plans to attack. And that's what you're really trying to see. Hopefully you score some points at the same time, and you come back that next drive. You don't do the same things. You set things up to then layer, as Coach Mack always says, then to set up for something else. So I don't know. I have no idea. His backdrop is always going to be get after the quarterback. Then he went to, the four-man front, and he's got a good four-man front. Now, especially run as well as pass, and he's got a great secondary, at least corners there for sure. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do besides what he's shown in film. A little insight, though, just because he was on the staff there for 2 years, he may know, and just like they may know him just as well. But guess what?
Right.
He wasn't coaching then. I mean, he was coaching, but he wasn't on the other side of the opponent. So I would say he has a little more advantage of understanding them than them understanding him. I don't know how much he was doing with the Titans. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And nobody ever really said. I mean, Buck, you covered the Titans. How much was Swartzy involved in the game planning for the Titans when he was here those last 2 years?
Enough when they're coming up with specifically on third down. He was a big part of what they were what they were doing as a coaching staff, and involved in the game planning, but not like overtly, not very hands-on in practice, mostly observing from the side of the field. So he's contributing in the meeting rooms, he's contributing in the coaches' meetings, but as far as like on-field application and practice, he's pretty hands-off.
Bringing back to your point, Mickey, because you were asking about D-Hop, and you mentioned, Buck, I think it's a great thing for the Titans that Greg Newsome, never want to see a player injured, but he is a great cover corner, right? And the first thing when I saw him up that he was going to be out, I was like, that is good news for the Titans. And on the note of D-Hop, last week, still not 100%, right? You got to love the fact that this guy, he's doing a process right now in terms of rehabbing that ankle, and Mike Vrabel and him trust each other in terms of the plan that they have. But he's probably going to be available again, and he's going to be out there limited, I would think. But the good thing that you've seen from D-Hop so far is when he's out there, he's making the plays for the most part. And that's all you can really ask of right now, because you're kind of incorporating him when you can, because he's a little limited. But when you're counting on him, he's coming up with the plays, and that's what we expected, right? But in the past, we haven't had that with some of the guys that have come here that are these veteran wide receivers. You weren't able to yank anything out of them at that point of their career. He's still showing that this is probably, when you look back at it, a better free agency signing.
Let's hope. There's a lot of Titans fans that have really struggled with the veteran receiver signing, but he has paid dividends for sure so far. Buck Reising, boots on the ground in Cleveland for one more segment, and you know what segment that is. It's time where I make you money, and Buck has Buck's best bets. We'll get to that next on this program. We'll continue to talk Titans. We'll continue to talk Browns. You can join the discussion, 615-737-1045. Sorry, I forgot the phone number temporarily. You what, Buck? Oh, he's gone.
He hung him up.
He asked a
And
question,
just like
hung
that.
up on himself.
Or he might have been talking to somebody else. I don't know.
I think he was. Facility managers, they're talking to Lee Company. They need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next player visit is to visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Right back after this. This is the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff on 104.5 The Zone.
Yikes.
Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. You can visit us for all your Titans news ahead of every game. Got a great crew and love hanging out with all of you on a Sunday morning here, a beautiful Sunday in Nashville. What is this, the second day of fall? So, I mean, it's fall, it's football season. We got everything in the world going for you. I'm losing my voice here, but Buck is finding his voice as he joins us once again from Cleveland. Joseph, you know what time it is. Time to open up the jukebox, play the jingles. Here we go. Buck's best.
Look at me. Your money, you know what else? You're a big winner tonight. I'm going to ask you a simple question. I want you to listen. Who's the big winner here tonight?
Buck Reising.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
It's my money and I need it now!
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Sing it to me, Blaine. All right, let's see if we can make money here on this beautiful Sunday. We're going to make these picks courtesy of Zen Sports, which is our studio sponsor back at home. Let's start with the game that we are all, or at least that I'm in town for, that everybody's going to be watching back home, and that we're covering here on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. The Titans are 3-point road underdogs here in Cleveland. That is a really, really close line for obvious reasons. Home field advantage good for 3 points. So Vegas telling us that these teams are pretty evenly matched. I would look at it and say that the situation for the Titans coming in here, I think that 3 points doesn't sound like a lot, but it will feel like a lot in this game. I would probably take the Titans plus the 3. I think that they are good enough to cover it. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that there's going to be a lot of defense. I think it's going to be a bad day to be a quarterback. So I'd probably take the Titans plus the 3 if I was betting at home. The second bet that I will give you before I turn it over to Mickey's Money Makers is another game in the division. The Colts are traveling to Baltimore. They will be without their starting quarterback, but to be quite honest with you, the offense seemed to operate a bit more efficiently after Anthony Richardson went down with the concussion. Gardner Minshew came in. Gardner Minshew is a proven player in this league. He works well within that system. Having been with Shane Steichen previously as the Eagles' backup quarterback, they are 8.5-point road underdogs in Baltimore. I think that's too big a line for any team, no matter how big the talent deficiency you think there is. I would take the Colts on the road.
Ooh.
Yep, I think they agree.
Yeah, somebody in the background definitely agrees with
They
that.
said I.
Minshew mania. All in agreement?
Somebody in the background, no, they're just in the middle of counting down here in the stadium, awaiting the anthem to interrupt Mickey's Moneymakers, but I'll try and mute myself if I can.
Okay.
All right, while Buck mutes himself, let's turn up the volume. Get your wallets out, people, and your bank statements.
No.
Oh, when you hear "Let's Ride," you know it's time to go. All right, I have 2 for you. So I don't know what Buck's percentage is, but Mickey's Moneymakers, literally, children are like getting their college funds boosted each Sunday. Blaine loves this. I know Blaine is using all his extra earnings for my bets in the stock market and tripling his money each week. So that's how he bought this Titans hat that he's wearing that everybody keeps talking about in the chat. Jared asked, is Buck calling in on a Nokia? So hopefully Buck will make my bets and buy himself a new phone this week. Mickey's Moneymakers, lady and gentlemen, 2 out of 3 last week, 3 of 5 on the season.
Yeah, baby, let's go.
Let's ride. Here we go. All right, I only got 2 this week because there were just some things with Mickey's Moneymakers. They have to be sure things. If I'm not 100% sure. So I have 2, and then I have a build your own adventure that I want to ask you about. I'm going to work in the peanut gallery today. Kayla's Cash Kickers and Blaine's Bank Busters, as well as Buck on his Nokia, who has muted himself, which he sounds unmuted. I think I can hear some noise in the background there, but here we go. Browns pass rush. What do they want to do? They want to get upfield and hit Ryan Tannehill. So what do you do? As the hitman said earlier, you leak Derrick Henry out and maybe you throw him one. His receiving over-under today is 12.5 yards. That's 1 screen pass to Derrick Henry, and then you're right into the bank. right.
Oh,
With
yeah.
all of your money.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh,
12 and a
agree.
half yards receiving
I
for Dick.
I love that one. That's a
I'm
no-brainer.
Sweating this morning.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
You're
that's,
sitting in the line at church listening to this, and I'm talking about betting, and I'm excited, and I apologize to Jesus. All right, here's my other one.
good one.
We like this mix of running backs. They're both running back based today. This is what I liked. My crystal ball, my trip down Bourbon Street to the lady in the alley who's reading the future with me. This is what we came up with. I don't endorse voodoo, though, by the way. Just I'll give that as a disclaimer.
No voodoo dolls.
Tajay Spears, his over for combined rushing and receiving is 32 and a half yards.
Oh, wow.
He's averaging about 7 yards a carry. I think he could be used some in the screen game today. I'm not so sure they don't split him out at some point. 32 and a half yards total, rushing and receiving. That's my 32 and a half yards.
Wow.
He hits 33 yards.
Oh,
You
yeah.
hit the money.
Oh, my.
Cha-ching.
Dang, I like that one too.
Joseph, just
those
clutch.
Those are good.
right there.
AF
That
and
was
they're
great.
at football. Okay,
Man,
here we
I feel
go.
like I don't need to give anything.
Here's
I can't top that, man.
So, Buck, you're gonna have
He's
to-
on fire.
I'm literally on fire right now.
Here
All
we
right,
go.
this is the
Arkansas State
build
had-
your own adventure. Yeah, A-State
Yeah.
won yesterday. It's a nice day in Jonesboro.
Ball State got smoked.
I saw that.
They didn't even put the score on the Twitter handle. Like they only went from halftime and then they never showed it again. It was
They
that
said
bad.
rough night for the birds.
3-3.
All right.
Just to Georgia, Southern.
I love the build up there, Blaine. I love
Lost
that.
to Georgia.
Southern.
Somewhere Cole Swindell was happy. That's his team. All right, here's my build your own adventure. So I put this one out there because I want to ask you guys. Buck, you can unmute yourself to answer this. The Titans have given up multiple X plays, right? Explosive plays each week. On FanDuel, you can get an over-under for longest receiving yards. For David Njoku, it's 15.5. For Donovan Peoples-Jones, it's 16.5. For Amari Cooper, it's 21.5. That seems a little rich for me. Elijah Moore is 18.5.
Okay.
Which of those guys do you think would be most likely to get an X play against this Titans defense? This is a build your own adventure, Mickey's Moneymaker. I'm trying to get everybody involved here.
Yeah.
I-
Kayla probably do better than
I'm
you.
gonna go-
You said Amari Cooper, 21.5?
He's 21.5. Njoku is 15.5. Peoples-Jones, 16.5. Elijah Moore, 18.5. Every week, though, I think the last 2 weeks at least, 4 guys have had an X play.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
they've
yeah.
had
Yeah,
a they've had
given
a
up,
better quarterback
5
passing to him too.
plays of They've had
point.
5 plays of 20-plus yards or more against them in the first 2 games. I'd probably take Elijah Moore. I like that one today.
Well, that's what I was going to take, but I'm not taking the same one as Buck. So I'm
Right.
going with the tight end, Njoku.
Joku.
15.5. He's got the
Yep.
lowest number, and he's
Yes,
a
he does.
house of a human who
He's
is.
a great player.
He just
A
needs
great
one.
athlete, man. Dang. They need to use him more. I hope they don't.
Don't say that, Blake.
Well, and Peoples-Jones, everything you read and listen to up there is like, they don't use him at all.
Yeah.
Man, I thought I saw him catch 1 pass versus the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, return-wise, but nothing else really.
Dang. Oh, man, I don't know here. Yeah, it's a coin toss for me. I was going to go with Moore, too. I like the little dynamic player. Cooper, I think he has a lot of injuries. We had some, writers that follow the Browns. They said he's fighting through injury with groin and something else. So, man, I don't think he's going to have a coming-out party versus the Titans.
I'll give you one more that's
I'm
super.
going to go with Kayla with Njoku.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna
Let's
partner up.
ride.
Yeah, let's ride.
I'm going to give you one more that's very
My
interesting
man,
to
my
me.
cousin there.
Nick Westbrook-Akine,
Okay.
as Blaine has pointed out, now that like the number 3 guys, he's not the number 2. He's being guarded by a more comparable human. He's a big guy. He's a matchup issue.
Favors.
And Buck, here you go. Nick Westbrook-Akine, his longest reception prop is 14.5 yards. So that's one intermediate dig route for Westbrook-Akine. That one was always also very intriguing to me. 14.5 yards. That's an intermediate route, break 1 tackle. He's tall. He can fall for a couple more yards. Ooh, it's hard not to add that to the moneymakers list. Very intriguing to me, though.
He's the best thing to come out of Indiana football. So I don't know if that accounts for much, but it counts for something. Yeah, I think the other guys are going to have just more attention on them generally, which has allowed NWI to get involved in the game plan. Yeah, I don't know about the yardage totals, but I'd take him for an anytime touchdown score.
Ooh. There you go, Mickey's Money Makers.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, I think he will. I don't know about catching a touchdown. It'll be interesting because he can get lost in the shuffle. But if he's outside versus those outside guys, those guys are pretty polished. But he's inside. He's a matchup nightmare for the third guy, typically.
Yeah.
You can always count on him, it seems like, for something big, right?
Yeah.
A chunk play or a touchdown.
I'm about to talk myself into 4 money makers, but I have 2 official: the build your own adventure and the curiosity effect. So here's the thing, kids: if you're playing in Vegas, you got to be sure. Take these lessons
Oh, man.
from a seasoned pro. You know,
Yeah. 2 weeks in. 2 weeks in.
Right.
You're doing
100%,
great.
Blaine.
Well, you're going to have, just know you're going to have a bad weekend. and then you're going to have to, humble yourself.
But I won't give my record that week. Buck,
They all do.
before we let you go, 50 seconds or so, Deshaun Watson, you mentioned earlier, he remains the biggest story in Cleveland.
Mystery.
At what point does he show up? They're
Next week.
plus million, like 200 million in dead cap for him. They can't get rid of him. They are saddled together. Please tell me you don't think this is the week he gets it going.
Oh, well, I mean,
You don't sound confident here.
he's the he's the weakest point on their offense right now, which is crazy.
That's horrible.
Does he get right? I don't necessarily know that he needs to look efficient, but he can make enough plays. They've got such great skill position players here. The offensive line is banged up, but still good. I don't know. I would not bet any unders on Deshaun Watson today.
Ooh. All right. We'll say goodbye to Buck. Buck, enjoy the game. We're going to marinate on everything that you said, and we'll pick this up on the other side. And, Buck, enjoy the game and the beautiful weather in Cleveland, and we'll talk to you again soon.
It is a beautiful day for football here in Cleveland. You all enjoy the game back home, and I'm flying back later tonight. So.
All right. Well, welcome back already.
Bye, Buck.
We will welcome you with open arms back to the Music City. All right. A little bit of tease on Deshaun Watson. The first 2 quarterbacks to play the Titans this year have a really interesting coincidence. Let's hope he doesn't get to that coincidence. We'll get to that next. We got hour number 2. You can jump in the mix, 615-737-1045. This show brought to you by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Hour number 2 of the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff rolls on. We hit the ejector seat for Buck Reising. He's in Cleveland floating around the atmosphere right now. Now we got the big three.
I hope he lands, in Cleveland.
I hope he lands in the lake. It's right next to the stadium there. It is right next to the stadium.
They missed the target.
You got to play in the crappy old Cleveland Stadium, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it was somewhere where they were throwing beer at me.
I was going to say, that's where they threw the beer at you.
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
You may or may not
on
have.
top of the snow mound there after my 62-yard interception return for a touchdown in that game. I love playing the Browns, man. When I first got in the league, that was when it was the AFC Central. So then it was, it was always to beat the Steelers.
Yep.
And the Browns are all part of that. So yeah, man, they were the king of the mountain, though, the Steelers, but. Yeah, the Dog Pound fans, man, they are loyal to the team, man.
Yeah, they are.
I have to respect them a lot. Yeah.
Those Dog Pound fans today have been really paying a lot of attention to their quarterback. Their offense has been, I'm going to use like a nice phrase, work in progress so far. Deshaun Watson, as Buck said on our show this week and has said to everybody and said on this show earlier, this 8-game experiment so far with him has not gone well. He's 55% completion percentage this year, which is bad for any league of football. He has his lowest quarterback rating of any season of his career so far. Kayla, he's essentially been the weakest link of this offense, and he's making more money than, everybody else combined probably.
Yeah, it's like I want to say, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. But
yes. Well, they can't say goodbye.
because his contract is guaranteed, baby. And the quarterback questions continue in Cleveland because that is always, I feel like, an issue for them, right?
Yeah, that franchise. Yeah,
I mean, it's just
they thought they fixed it right here.
They did, and they thought they fixed it with Baker, right? Mayfield, who is now doing an okay job in Tampa.
I did love his commercials, though, where he lived at the stadium, though. Yeah. Those were fantastic.
Those were pretty funny. But look, and Buck said this earlier on. He said he's played 8 games. I don't want excuses anymore. I don't care if he didn't play for a year and a half or whatever it was. He had games last year and he has games this year. Like, he needs to be what they paid him to be at this point. And I don't know what's not clicking with him. Is he trying to do too much in this offensive scheme? Is that the issue? I don't know. He had some penalties last week that he hurt the team doing those types of bonehead things. And really,
face mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Pushed a ref.
Well, he didn't get a penalty for that.
He did not.
He just got thrown out of the game.
Right?
Yeah. And maybe for half of the next game too.
So it's a really interesting thing in terms of how you're going to see this play out. And I think if you're the Titans and this Titans defense specifically, if you can do the first job of shutting down the run, which it helps to not have Nick Chubb. Obviously, they're going to have Kareem Hunt, who is going to play, and Gerald Ford, who has shown some bursts, right?
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford, excuse me.
I would love to see Gerald Ford
Ford
suit up in this game. He played center at Michigan in like the 30s, I think.
Let's go, Gerald Ford. Let's
Former
take him
President
out of
Gerald Ford.
retirement.
That's why I stay away from first names. So I just say Ford. You could be like, what Ford? I don't know, but that Ford.
Well, he knows that I do this twice a day, where I call a person the wrong first name, and he just casually slips in.
That's why I
Jerome
have
Ford.
you to back me up there. I remember, though, when he did, I think he had one really nice run last weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Or last week, right?
He
I was like, Ford Mustang, right?
Yeah, he was gone.
Like,
they said he was disappointed he didn't score because he's fast.
He's real
He
fast.
got caught by, I think, Minka, maybe it was.
Yeah, before Minka got left the game with an injury. But I think if they can shut down the run, then they can really start to frustrate Deshaun Watson. And if there is any defense that can frustrate Deshaun Watson in terms of the front and getting to him, it's this one. Right? It's Big Jeff. It's Arden Key. It's making him get flustered. I think Deshaun, to me, this is a game he kind of needs to show that he's progressing. If not, I think they continue to have issues up there in Cleveland with this guy.
Yeah, the offensive line has some issues, and I think he is, to you guys' point, kind of forcing issue, trying to make something out of nothing, doing a little too much. But here's my take.
'Kay.
And he has been playing absolutely horrible. And I want him to continue to play like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. But there's one thing. There's a psyche in an athlete that certain teams, they always play well. When he was with the Texans, and I'm going to say, quantify, he was with the Texans, whether they won or lost, he always played well. So sometimes players come into a game with this relaxed mode because of that they've had success against them. It could be an individual matchup or it could be teams, depending on your position, and that you just always play well. It's almost like when I was a player, like sometimes it was a guy who was just an average, good starting, tight end, could have a good game against me, because he just had my number. And then against the elite Pro Bowl Hall of Fame guy, I'm shutting down. So it's just certain things about certain teams or players that you just have this air of confidence about. So I hope that's not recreated, and they have to get after him early to remind him how bad he's been playing.
Sure.
That way he goes back down that road. So it'll be an interesting dynamic here in this game with his confidence level versus a team that he's very familiar with.
Blaine, you brought that up earlier this week. So I have some interesting numbers that I opened up here. Against the Titans in his career, he's 73% completion, almost 20 points better than what he is this season. He has 17 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that terrifies me about him, how he has used his legs against this team. He had a game where he ran, 9 for 70. He had 9 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown in a game where they just throttled the Titans. It was 34-17. But let's say Arden gets after him. Big Jeff kind of chases him out of the pocket. What if he starts running and then his confidence gets built up?
Yeah.
That terrifies me about him because he
Mm-hmm.
has run and thrown like a champ against this team.
Now, he's nothing like that
No, he
so
has
far this
and,
season.
and let me remind you, he has 143 yards passing. That is 32nd in the league
You just
right
gave
now.
You just gave me chills because now I'm afraid he has nowhere to go but up.
Right. So maybe let's hope that's like 2 yards.
Oh, my God.
Right?
That is horrible. Oh, man. See, you thought I was getting chill bumps about excitement. No, worry, concern.
Yeah.
Because he can flip the script. It's not like he's an old guy. At some point, the light's going to come back on, and I just hope it's not this game.
He's like 28 years old.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's still
I
got a
thought,
little
is he
way.
I know.
31 now? No.
28.
He's 28.
Yeah,
he's an
he-
ancient 28.
Man.
You know, it's interesting, though, just in reading and seeing everything they're saying out of Cleveland, like they're saying like his rushing and movement skills have diminished, even at 28. I don't buy that until I see it today.
Sure. Do you know what Ramon Foster said this week? He was tuning into Cleveland radio, which, by the way, I lived in Ohio for 3 years.
I
it's
could imagine
crazy
it's-
up there.
Oh, yeah, they love their team. There's
They
no
were
doubt.
calling for Dorian Thompson.
Yeah, the UCLA kid.
Robinson.
DTR.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked to, I listened to the podcast of Mary Jo Cabot.
Yeah,
and
love her.
Yeah, she said the exact same thing, that'll never happen, though.
Right.
That'll never happen, but the fans are calling for it. Not this soon. Now, there may be a time
Sure.
down the road, but right now, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he played great in the preseason.
Right.
And that's why they were able to trade Dobbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
Cardinal starter Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
Had a good game.
Yeah, he had a good game. They came up. They came up short, though, right?
Here's the interesting stat about the first 2 quarterbacks the Titans have seen this year. Do you guys know how many yards Derek Carr threw for?
Oh, my. 300?
323.
305.
Okay.
Do you know?
Close.
Okay. Both of you were close. That's
Yeah.
fine. But if this is the Price is Right, you both get your showcase.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Okay. Justin Herbert, do you know how many yards he threw for?
320.
Oh, maybe that's where I was getting my 323 from.
305.
Oh, the same thing.
They both
What?
threw for 305. I thought, is this a misprint? Because
Did you double check that stat there?
I took pictures
That
on my
is
phone.
weird.
So I would,
Mickey's money maker.
Right?
That should be the money maker
Exactly.
then. 305 was be what Deshaun Watson will not throw for.
Yes.
his over-under, I think, was 281.5. I almost money maked that. But like Kayla said, I maked it. I almost,
You caked it.
yes, I almost taked it as a bet. But as Kayla said, this dude's averaging like 71.5 yards passing a game. I mean, think about the drought, the hellscape of terrible passing offense we saw here last year, and they're paying top drawer money for this guy to average 71 yards a game.
Yep.
So 305. Can they keep him under 305?
Yes.
Oh, fix my
I mean, the ghost of Deshaun Watson passed. Blaine, can they keep him buried for another Sunday? Can they keep him under 305 or under 281.5 for anyone who jumped on that train?
You just never know. You think they have the pieces to do it, but just, sometimes, everything doesn't always add up the way you want it to. So you hope it does. They have great pass rushers, starting with Big Jeff inside and outside. I'm interested to see if Landry can kind of come out. He looks strong and powerful, but he doesn't look as fast and nimble to me as he did previously the season before that. So see if he can kind of continue to, kick off the rust and get to the, motorcycle leaning and coming after the quarterback on a consistent basis. Because there's time I don't even know if he's on the field. Lucky for him, he had a big play.
Boy.
At the end of a game, but before that, do you ever remember Landry, standing out anywhere? So we must not forget, it's always that first year out of an injury about getting after the quarterback that you just not quite right. Then I watched some of the individuals there, and I didn't like what I saw. He wasn't getting off the ball the way I like. I think he's somewhat nicked up. I don't know what it is. He had all those black, tape things all over the place on his, legs, and he had a sleeve on. I'm looking at it, I'm like, that doesn't look like the Landry that I'm used to seeing. So I'm interested to see how he plays. Hopefully he has a great game and all those things. But we just got to remember that the version that we saw of him may not kick in from the year before, may not kick until halfway through the season where his body's finally getting adjusted to playing with the, coming off an ACL injury. So, yeah, do they have the potential? Yes, but I'm not sure, at least on the outside, if they have the guys, rushing the patch. Because now you were talking about Weaver.
And I was going to bring that up to you because Harold's really been on the field for majority snaps. Like, Weaver's not been on there much.
So
do you put him on a little more?
Well, it's not just about Weaver playing. It's more about Landry getting rest and staying fresher.
Yes.
And I know he doesn't want to come out because that's how he was beforehand.
Sure.
I just think we got to be a little bit smarter. And, nobody's watching say, hey, come out. You putting the guys out there making a big dough and they want to get the numbers and they want to make sure that they're, feeling good about where they're at, coming back off an ACL injury. So this is a tough one. So I'm just hoping that they have issues and Watson doesn't get hot. Sometimes a quarterback can get hot and you can still play your best on defensive line and there's just no way you stop him.
Right.
And he has that potential but hadn't shown that at all this season.
Well, and if he was going to show it, with a guy like Nick Chubb, you think you would have seen a little bit of it because Nick Chubb was a baller. I would have argued up until, he had his injury, which is not good for the league at all. You love to see the best players playing, right? But this guy was the guy that was helping them win games. He was averaging 5.89 yards per carry. Like, this is a dude. And now they don't have him at all to help. And, yeah, I get it. They've got other guys that have to step up. But I think Nick Chubb was special.
They are averaging 202 yards rushing in the first two games.
Yeah. And so I think it's going to be more difficult for Watson.
Well, I agree with that. But see, I think I take this other attitude. It always happened as a player. You're like, oh, okay, they're down their star player.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody else oh, nope, it's time for me. I'm trying to get paid.
You're right.
It's my turn.
Yeah.
And now it's not just one guy.
You're right.
It's multiple guys.
Former President Gerald Ford included.
Yeah, Mr. Ford.
Yes.
You got, Kareem Hunt who's coming out and he wants to be, hey, man, I've been waiting out here my turn. I got fresh legs. Now, you may get tired. Yeah. I got fresh legs. You platoon me, and then maybe they throw a little bit more than they had in the past, changing just a little bit. And so, what a superstar player. Unfortunately, you got injured like that. But I like to be the second game after a big-time player because then you get to see how they are like structuring their offense now with the changes. And then ultimately you get to see some of that. Now we'll be the team that's getting looked at a point like, oh, now they're doing these things differently. They're not leaning on the run as much. Like, dang. I wish Nick Chubb was healthy. Right. So even though he's a superstar type player. So, yeah, he's their version of our Derrick Henry, no doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It's kind of he and Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook have sort of been those guys that get mentioned with each other.
Yeah.
So, I agree with what you said, Kayla. He's a great football player, by all accounts, a fantastic dude. And I hate to see anybody get hurt, anybody. So it was just hard to watch.
Did you see, though, it only ended up being his ACL?
Or
I saw that.
or
That's a
MCL.
report. Or I think it was ACL, but I think they were.
MCL?
MCL. He
Oh,
tore his
MCL?
MCL. Yeah, he
But
tore his
they were
MCL.
worried it was going to be like so many other things.
Yeah,
I
that was the
couldn't
same knee he
believe
tore up
that.
everything. Oh, that was a relief. Maybe that's why he fell over that way, because it was like, dang, your leg has no stability. How did
Yeah.
that happen? How do you
Yeah.
look like that?
Oh.
'Cause
Yeah,
it
that's why
looked
the
like-
MCL, that's on the sides. there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Oof.
Yeah, well, hoping everything and praying successful, everything surgery, and we get to see that fella back again because he's already been through this once, as you guys pointed out. And we all loved watching him play in the SEC, so hopefully he comes back. Speaking of coming back, the Titans should get some help back in the secondary today. Monty Hooker out of concussion protocol. Christian Fulton in the secondary. Sure like seeing that, Kayla and Blaine, knowing those guys are back on the field today. Just always good to know you got your best guys out there.
Yeah, and Amani just had such a solid training camp. It got off to such a great start, and nobody wants to deal with that concussion. He dealt with one last year that was kept him out 3 weeks. And I talked to him this week, and he said, as far as the concussion goes, it's never good, but this was a lot easier to get through than last year when that happened. But he was thrilled to be able to be back this week. And so I think Elijah Molden did a pretty good job. But, I mean, Amani is definitely a guy you want to see back there with Kevin Byard in a game like this. As for Christian Fulton, guys, to me, it's still a prove-it situation. Like, he said he put the work in the offseason, which he did, and he decided to go his own route with the trainer. We saw him in training camp. He was excellent. And then he gets banged up right out of the gates. And now for me, it's a game-to-game thing. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Because when he's good and he's healthy, he's a number one corner, no doubt. But if he's not able to stay healthy, then it's a waste. Because you're just not able to be out there consistently enough as that top guy. And then you've got guys that have to come in, and that's fine. But this is your number one dude. He needs to be Fulton Island out there.
Yes, he does.
Well, I would say this: he's he's the number one corner on this team. I'm not so sure he's a number one. Number ones are typically always available
You're
most
right.
of the time, and that's probably keeping him from being that so-called number one corner. Man, it's his contract year, so he's got a lot on the line, more than just for the Titans, but for himself individually. So I don't know where he's at. I know he practiced. But at the same time, those things can crop right back up out of nowhere. You're out there running full speed. You're not doing that at practice or even a scrimmage. You're in a game exhausting everything. So hopefully he can manage through the game and is successful and kind of continues to, stay healthy and grow in confidence with that hamstring. But, yeah, and then Hooker, he's a very valuable player. I think the duo of him and Byard is one of the best in the National Football League, and both of them bring, a lot of playmaking ability. So whenever you're missing a playmaker on the defense, that's always hurt. So I'm looking forward to seeing him not on special teams, though. Why do you have your starting safety? Granted, I know he made a play, but that was still the first thing that went through my mind. And what are the backup safeties doing? I mean, what the heck is going on here, man? So great play against the Saints on the sideline, caused fumble. Incredible play, actually. A fantabulous play, but the first thing came to mind, and he gets a concussion. Like, dang, well, why are we playing him so much? I mean, on special team, what are these young guys that made the team? What are they doing? Why aren't they out there? This linebackers, safeties, get this guy a break.
Yep.
Especially with the concussion issues. If he gets dinged on kickoff and he's running out on kickoff, I'll be perturbed. Like, he shouldn't
I'm
even be
with
on
you,
that.
Blaine.
That's supposed to be one of the most dangerous,
Yes.
the kickoff for players. And then we put, one of our starters on there. Come on, man. Come on. That means you are not comfortable. That's what it tells me as a coach, special teams coach, with the young players that should be running down there. Oh, by the way, we saw Mr. Reese got released. Guess what? He was the
Otis.
guy who was at fault on the punt block. You knew it was coming. Yeah. Yeah, so you live and die with the young guy, but then you can't point the finger when he has no experience and then he messes up. So maybe that's why he's on kickoff, Hooker. But come on, man. If we can't get it's 10 other guys. If some guys squirts through there on kickoff, man, then we got other issues.
Yeesh. The Browns have targets on offense, too. And Amani Hooker's a great route runner. Elijah Moore is a guy I think we all think can. We were talking about who might have an X play today. He could definitely be that guy. David Njoku's a house of a human. I mean, they have plenty of guys to throw the ball to.
They got playmakers.
You know what's interesting though? Cedric Tillman, drafted by the Browns, big, fast. We all got to see him play at Tennessee. Loved watching him play. He has no targets on 20 snaps of offense so far. That's
Yeah, they
surprising.
didn't even play him very much against the Steelers, and I'm almost stunned.
20
Jeez.
snaps total in 2 games. No target.
What's been a common denominator here is they usually develop young players slowly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the wrong take, and maybe he should get more playing time, especially with Cooper being nicked up with a couple injuries and still trying to fight through them. But I was stunned because he looked really good. I was paying attention to him in preseason. He looked really good. And by the way, that was with the quarterback from UCLA.
UCR, yeah,
See?
that's right.
He's down
you
to
just
football.
wonder, they're almost forced into a corner. They have no choice. You got to keep the big money guy out there. But maybe that connection with Tillman and the quarterback always is something you always watching with young players and have a connection, whether it's with the starting quarterback or the backup quarterback. But yeah, they don't. I didn't see him out there hardly at all versus the Steelers.
No.
I was like, what? I saw some former receivers who in the broadcasting world say that they thought he was the best receiver
heard that
coming
too.
out. Mm-hmm. Just in totality of his game and how it fits the NFL.
Yeah. He has every tool that you need to thrive in the
I
NFL.
thought it was a great fit for the Titans.
So you were
Yeah.
you were bringing up Blaine earlier. When one player goes out, you get a mentality sometimes, right, with these guys to step up. And I thought this was interesting. Diana Rossini from The Athletic had tweeted this out, that Elijah Moore told her that the Browns' office is going to be explosive today against the Titans. He said because there's injuries going on, it's been a shaky start to the offense. So we're ready to ball out. So that I thought that was interesting, just because you had just brought up that point, and Moore's mentality. Clearly, he's coming out with that and
that's
saying that.
every player. You got to remember, these guys are ultra competitive, and they want to show. See, listen to this. They want to show that we can win without Chubb. Not hating on Chubb. Now that he's hurt, everybody's talking to him about like, oh, how's the offense going to change, and how does it? Well, we're about to show you. And see that you never won. That's almost like backing an athlete into a corner, and now they're going to try to show you that we can win without them. And that is a dangerous, you don't want that.
Right.
Because then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, I'm making a play. It's my time to shine. I could have been doing this before. We just was running the football more than often than not, and they were throwing the football. So yeah, that's I'm worried about that. So I'm gonna be watching really early. There's a couple things here that kind of weigh against, to me, the athletic mentality of a player versus, the Titans. So I'm always looking at that, and man, I'm just thinking about when Eddie George was down, which was very rare. We're like, oh, we got to pick our game defense. We got to pick it up. We got to. There's no way. So I can't imagine what our offensive players were thinking. Yeah. See, so you want to show that you can play even better without. And sometimes that lasts for a game or two, and then it sets in. But that first game is always tough. That opponent, like, they did some stuff that we had never seen them do.
Yep.
And you're like,
In this final segment, we're going to do some things that you've never heard us do.
Really?
We're just going to
Karaoke?
keep blowing your mind because why does Tajay Spears walk barefoot before the game? Our investigative reporter has gone to the heart of that matter.
Has.
And
Ouch.
D09 in the F&M Bank chat asked the question, who's a better quarterback right now, Tannehill or Watson? Now, some of you Titans fans may have
Well, I brought
feelings.
that question to you up on Blaine Bishop show.
I
didn't
know you did.
Okay.
So he followed up with Blaine's question from earlier this week. So we discussed this. What did Blaine say about that? What do you say about that? We'll get into all that next. Let's get into some Lee Company, though. Facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. It is the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Man, beautiful fall day in Nashville, beautiful fall day in Cleveland, where the Titans will kick off against those Cleveland Browns right around noon today. You can hear all of that. You can hear Titans countdown next, starting at 11 o'clock here on this station and all throughout the Mid-South. Appreciate our great friends at Lee Company who make this possible. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Remember, the seasons are changing. You got to get those HVACs checked out. If you're checking out the Titans inactive list, here you go. Peter Skoronski, no surprise. Jalen Duncan, the offensive lineman, Colton Dowell, Caleb Murphy, Will Levis, who that assumes he will again be the number 3 quarterback. Kendall Vildor, inactive today. Vildor.
Yeah.
And Travis Gibson, so both of the former Bears inactive today for the Tennessee Titans. There you go. We know for the Browns, inactive today will be the quarterback, Greg Newsome. We spoke about him earlier. Lots of stuff to get to. We'll get the question that we teased, but somewhere right now is probably a young running back from Tulane walking around on the field with no shoes on. Blaine wondered why in the world would he do that. So you went and asked, like Blaine needs to know this.
Did.
It wasn't me need to know, but just
Yeah,
digging
I
deeper
think
into
curious.
it.
I think it's always something that people
Always
wonder with
intriguing.
those traditions, right? And it is a tradition for Tajay Spears. I talked to him in the locker room this week, and when I asked him about it, he had, first of all, a lot of convincing, like it was a very heartfelt answer is what I'm saying. It wasn't just something like, oh, I do this because this is why. He said, this dates back to my time at Tulane. And he goes, I am a player who likes to conserve my energy in the pregame. So he's not going to be one of those guys you see out there, doing a whole bunch of workouts or a whole bunch of, drills. He likes to just conserve the energy. And so he maybe once in a while, like I showed you in the video, if you go look at it at Kayla Anderson TV, he's doing the ladder barefoot. And I said, why is that? He goes, well, I like to become one with the environment, the turf, the grass, the grass. That's my kind of meditation. It puts me at ease to be barefoot out there like that. And I need that as a player before I go out there and give all my energy. So it goes into the process of conserving his energy, to be one with the grounds, if you may. And he said it worked all the way when I started it in college, so why would I stop it now? I'd say it's working for him for the most part. A couple
So
games
far,
into the
so
season.
good. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we're going to see even more.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
And he's mad about. He's like, I want to do more. Like, we asked him about the last two weeks and what it's been like to, be out there with Derek and kind of get in a groove. Thing. Oh no, we want more. Not good enough.
It felt like there were hints, even from the staff during the offseason and the preseason and camp, he would be used more in the passing game, and he hasn't really been used that much with that yet. So,
Good
do
point.
they do more things with him as the season goes on? We know that he can pass pro because we've seen him do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's. Well, maybe we have seen him and it just hasn't been those opportunities.
Right.
Right.
So that's what we can't just be fascinated with. Oh, you caught a pass and they threw it to you. Well, maybe the defense covered what they had planned on for him to get the ball, and then they had to go somewhere else. So I think those things are implement. When you see this 2-back offense that they have, which I love because I got, I'd fall asleep just Derrick Henry left or right. It reminded me of my days. I was having dreams of Eddie George left, right. I was like, oh, my gosh, this is killing me. Just get a first down. Hurry up, please. I need more plays to rest. Oh, my gosh. Yes, we got it. Yeah, I got 3 more plays to rest. So now we see a really good, well-balanced offense still being the focal point of Henry, but he's now used in multiple ways as far as, attracting players and then opening it up for other players, in a game. So that's the part I like. And yet we can still have the hammer right down your throat because nobody wants part of, Derrick Henry, especially in the open field.
Something to watch today. Kearis Jackson went on IR this week. He went in after stretch one day. Remember I said, this report he went in after stretch. You said, what?
No, I saw the video of it. Oh, there was no way his ankle he started limping. He just was jogging.
Yep.
And this is in individuals, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
it looked bad.
was.
I
It
saw all the
was.
videos. It was not. I was like, he is not something not right, and it looked bad. I was like, I'm just hoping he can get back to. So who are they making active? Remember, that's when we started asking, okay, who's going to be
Who's the number
returner?
2?
Sure.
Because you said if it is, because you know it was number 2 on the unofficial depth chart.
That's what I asked me.
Amani Hooker.
Yes.
And I said, oh, no.
I'm gonna throw something
Yeah,
at the
you're like,
TV.
that ain't happening.
What, after concussion?
Yeah, no.
Nope.
No, sir.
But if they say just fair catch every last one of them.
So I wondered maybe Gary the Terror. I wasn't thinking clearly because you know who the
Oh,
in case
boy.
of emergency break glass. One Mason Kinsey.
Oh, yeah.
Is
That's what we
active
said.
today.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
who we
He is
said.
active today. So I thought, he's played a little bit before, but I don't remember him having a lot of.
No.
Here it is. In his career, he has 2 punt returns for no yards and 1 catch for 3 yards in 3 career games. So he's gotten little chances here and there. I guess so. He's fair caught 2 punts, or he got one he caught. I guess he got tackled immediately because I'm trying to think like, okay, now I have to scan my whole hard drive here for what are his 2 punt returns. And I do want to say I remember him once catching the ball and going to run, and a guy just being right there and hitting him in the feet and dropping him for no yards. So in 3 career games, 2 punt returns for no yards, 1 catch for 3 yards in very limited time as a receiver. But I would imagine we see Mason Kinsey catching the punts today.
That's what I think they're going to do. And look, all the Camp Crush Titans that was their Camp Crush for the past 2 years. Here's your chance. He just needs to protect the football. Like we don't need any drops back there. Let's just protect the football. And you're right. Everybody gets their chance, right? Everybody hopes they can get their chance. Well, here's an opportunity for him. And he said it himself. He's coming off of his best training camp. He thought Mason Kinsey did.
Yeah.
So you know what? Go for it, man. You're getting an opportunity. Mike Vrabel doesn't look at you any different. He expects you to come up and do a job. That's the expectations for Mike Vrabel. So do your job.
And Jackson's on IR. That means minimum of 4
Yeah.
games. Kinsey could do this 4 games. Show you can do it. You could do it for 4 games.
Can I ask you guys something too? I talked to Kyle in the locker room, Kyle Phillips, this week, and he says his recovery is coming along really nicely.
Yeah, he was practicing soon because he had the
Yeah.
other number 8. He was, I guess, emulating Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore, number
Him
8.
and Jackson were at practice. They had on the jersey number 8 at practice.
Ooh.
So when he comes back, guys, you have to use him back there, right? But I'm just so worried because he has gotten hurt on every single situation on a punt return
Well, I think his shoulder injury initially happened on the 7 route that he caught on the sidelines, on the Titan sidelines, right? That's where that
the
started.
shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, well,
but
that's
he
where
had
it
a
all
hammy
started.
last year,
then
too.
After that, then it became the hammy. I think he was compensating, trying to play through the
Yeah.
shoulder injury, and you kind of start moving your body in a certain way. It's like, why are you doing this? This doesn't work. Trying to compensate. So, yeah, he's had a lot of injuries. But if you play with fear, then, you did not mind.
You have to put him back, yeah.
You got to put him back there. But I think Kinsey is back there more so to secure, as you mentioned, secure the catch.
Yeah,
He's
I
just
think
trying to
so.
secure the catch. And then if you get anything outside of that, then, that's gravy. And I think he's capable of making some guys miss. He just has to get the more opportunities. So it's not really, when you look at the stats, you go, oh, man, dang, he didn't do anything. Well, in reality is he did do, first and foremost, he fair caught the ball and secured, the offense having the ball. So that's where it all starts with a guy who's a young player who hadn't had a lot of experience in live game, experience, let's say, in, doing something that is really unique and really difficult to do. One of the harder things to do in the National Football League, catching punts. It's really hard because of the hang time is so different than college. So I think he's doing good and hopefully get some space to, make some moves. He plays with a lot of confidence. How can you not be a fan of Mason Kinsey?
Yep.
For me personally, just to see what he's done and play with the, the confidence that he has in his ability that he belongs is really cool to watch and see how that has grown as a player now going into his 3rd year and still fighting for a spot and then still making it and getting his opportunity here. So this is time to showcase.
If you don't
press. That's all I wish
Yeah.
you. Don't
Blaine, that's
press
what
to-
scares me.
Mhm.
This is my 4th game of my career, and I don't have anything to show for. I got to
that's
go
what
out there
happens.
and look like Billy White shoes today.
Because we are up here talking about how he has no yards.
Yes.
He hasn't done
Yeah.
anything
Yes.
every time he's played. And then he gets out there and it's like, I'm going to show you. And then sometimes that kind of
Yep.
works against you. So you just got to be confident who you are and just take what they give you and keep it moving.
If you root against guys like Kinsey, then you hate kittens. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Ooh.
puppies.
Ooh.
It's the same people. It
I
has
know.
to be. It's
It's the same
terrible.
people? It's the
It's
same
terrible people who
Yeah.
root against the guy who's 5
Yeah,
foot
you
nothing,
gotta go
100
for the
nothing.
underdog, man. Come on.
The ultimate
man.
underdog. One more special teams note before we get to Blaine's brain busting quarterback question that he dropped on me this week, and I was silent for about 3 seconds. The Chargers averaged 16 yards per punt return last week. Stonehouse is blasting it down the field, but the guy averaged 16 yards per return. Vrabel got asked about it, and he's been asked about long punt returns before. And for the longest time, he deflected it. Then he was like, well, we're telling Stonehouse has got to be in the air longer. Remember, that was the whole narrative for during training camp or off-season. He's going to put it in the air longer. I know he's kicking the crap out of it, but dude was like catching the ball last week, and there was nobody else in the frame on the TV. So Vrabel got asked about it again, deflected again, and then went back at, maybe it was Rex Road who asked about it. Then he kind of went back at Rex Road and chewed on him some. And Rex Road was like, I'm just saying he's catching the ball, and there's nobody around him. So then Vrabel says, well, our gunners ought to be able to do that, especially against single press. So I bring this up to Blaine, and Blaine was like, they were single pressing. They were single pressing, and guys,
They weren't getting down
16
there.
yards. And when you got that much of a head of steam, that just scares. This could probably be a field position game. And what if you get pinned back and you're the Titans and you punt and Stonehouse blasts it about maybe he's kicking from 9 yards deep in his own end zone. He kicks at the 50-yard line. You honestly want the guy to get 16 yards there? So this scares the heebie-jeebies out of me.
Well, from a guy, too, last year where, remember, he went to the Pro Bowl. And we haven't talked about him a lot this year because you're right. In the offseason was all about getting that hang time. Was the stuff he needed to work on. I think that's something to look out for.
I will say this: the Chargers punter, that dude.
Oh,
you didn't know how far it was going. That thing was in the air. One time I drank half a soda while the ball was in the air. Went to the bathroom and came back, and then it landed. J.K. Scott, right? Whoa. That's Mr. Hang Time. All right. Blaine was hanging my time this week. We're talking about quarterbacks and Watson. And I said, I'm going to look up and see what his dead cap hit because they're just married to him. They owe him all the money, but even cap-wise, they can't get rid of him. It would totally wreck their cap. So they're going to be together. And Blaine just kind of drops this casually. Honestly, right now, who's a better quarterback, him or Ryan Tannehill? You think about the things people have said about Tannehill around here since the playoff game against the Bengals. Who would you rather have right now?
Ryan Tannehill.
Not even close.
Like, sorry, I got the Diet Coke at home. I don't need to go out and get another pack of it. Right? Like, I'm fine with Ryan Tannehill right now. And I get he had one really bad game. I'm sure that was awful for him to have to endure. But Deshaun Watson has not been Deshaun Watson. And I remember the talk last year when he was able to come back and play. Oh, you're probably going to have to give him at least the rest of this year to figure it out. But next year, he needs to be ready out of the gates. He's been with this team enough. He's been with the guys enough. He needed to come out of the gates ready to be Deshaun Watson that we saw before he went on the sabbatical, right?
Sabbaticals.
And he is not that guy. I brought up the passing yards, folks.
Give that number again.
144.
Yeah, people are driving off the road right now. That's in 2 games. That's not his average.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ryan, 444. Like, a little bit of a difference there.
Just a tad.
Just a tad. Ryan Tannehill also, I think there was some questions after that first game, too. Like, guy's not mobile anymore. Look, Ryan's still mobile. He showed it last week in the game where he continued to use his wheels, which, by the way, he loves to do. He says, that's my wide receiver coming out in me.
Oh, that option
from when he
was
played
sweet.
At A&M, yeah. He's the better quarterback right now, guys. Now, that could change. Deshaun, like Blaine was saying, he could break out of his mold here in this game. We hope not. But you put them head-to-head right now, I'm going with Ryan Tannehill every single time.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's not even close right now, but hopefully
gave me no warning. You gave me no
way.
warning when you said that, too, and I was like,
because it hit me out of nowhere. Like, everybody's talking about how Tannehill, but Tannehill's better than Watson right now. That's a low barometer. What'd you say? He was 32nd in the league right now?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
He's
They're not getting their bang for their buck, but we're
completion
definitely
percent.
getting our bang for our buck.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully it
guaranteed
continues.
money there.
Yeah.
They're like 200 dead cap to cut him after this year, and then it's like
I don't think
150
they can't
the
cut
next year, and then it's like 100 the next year. Boy, And I'm sure, like everybody in Cleveland, this is all they're thinking today, just begging this guy to break out, like Titans fans were with Tannehill last week. And to Tannehill's credit, after a first quarter that was hard to look at, throw the long shot to Burks, he hit one of those plays, and they were off and running from there. I mean, he was 20 of 24.
Yeah.
So he missed his first one. So he was, from there on, he was 20 of 23.
Right.
So
it would count the Wesco drop, so that he's really between.
Yeah.
See, just
Seriously,
just kidding.
I'm with you on that.
I mean, man, that's 2 false starts in the drop, man. I'm not happy right now. Your job is real easy, bro. Block and catch the ones that's thrown to. I don't care if it's thrown to the right or left of you. You still got to catch it, man. Come on. Yeah, your blocking's not that dynamic. We can get somebody else to get in the way, man. Yeah, me, Mickey, and Kayla can get in the way of some people.
Yeah.
Take 3 of us, we one of you.
I don't want to get in Myles Garrett's way. I'd let you handle that one.
Oh, no, I just tie a shoestring.
Exactly. See,
That
I'm
dude's
with
phenomenal
you.
talent.
You put a challenge on me, I'll find a way.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
find
That's
a way.
exactly what happens in the game. Yeah.
Okay,
See?
both of
Kayla's
you-
an athlete right there. What are you talking about?
Both of you have brought this up today, and it is fascinating to me. And it's the whole, what do you make of Jim Schwartz knows the Titans, but the Titans know Jim Schwartz some. I mean, Blaine, you've been in the locker room. Hey, this coach used to coach this team. Hey, we just picked this guy up this week, and he was on that team 3 weeks ago. And I've always asked you, like, do you just pump information? You put him in a room with a bright light and go, tell us everything. And you're like, no, not really. I mean, if he offers suggestions, that's good. But it's not like he's just coming in there and going, here's the entire playbook. Let me write it out for you.
Yeah, no, I think what happens first and foremost is people, I remember when I went to Philly and we played the Titans the first game, and they were trying to ask me all these questions. And really, only thing I could really give them was, a little insight to the actual individual players. Like, oh, yeah, such and such, naturally they asked about Eddie George and different players. And then because they're watching a scheme and a system, on film. So they know what they're going to run. They try to ask you for like curveball type things like, okay, do you know any of their signals, adjustments that they would make and so they're trying to look more into that kind of deal, not actually knowing, because it really doesn't help. Because I was kind of matter of fact, like, well, didn't y'all watch film? And they had already watched film, but it was my whole point, like, okay, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I used to call players like, hey, man, what was such and such? Or, what is their scheme? Or get any tips for me? The same thing, So I think it really mutes itself and is, each side nullifies each other. It's not really a big deal. At the same time, it's about execution by the players. And they didn't do anything that's surprising, and you know what he likes to do. And say maybe they have a couple of things different for, your team. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But, no different. You got to go out there and play ball.
Yeah, and Jim Schwartz, which obviously Vrabel staff talks so highly of him, what he did do here when he was here. But this is also Tim Kelly's offense now, right? This isn't a Todd Downing offense. So there are some differences. There's new personnel here. It's one thing to know, like, maybe a little bit on a player's tendencies, right? But then you could go back to Tim Kelly and say, well, Tim Kelly knows a lot about Deshaun Watson. And he was asked about this week, and he shut that down. He wasn't going to talk about that.
No, he should have done.
He's like, I mean, I can go back and say, yeah, I know this and this, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Right. Because he does have some insight.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely.
I'd have that right under my hat.
When to believe a coach and when not to believe is always the question.
Never is the answer. Right. Yeah. You're still waiting.
Well, why would he give you information that helps them?
Right.
He is not doing it. Lee Company, they'll give you information that helps you. Lee Company, all you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. So we got about 2 minutes left. I'll ask you guys. We always hit this before we go. Players, position groups, who has your attention the most today as the Titans look for this win in Cleveland?
So I am going to go with the offensive line. I think that's going to be continuing to be on my radar in games until you see this line really gel. And in a game like this, it's important for them to give Tanny a little bit of time. Look, they got to put their big boy pants on. You got to do it every week. But, like you said, this front, it's good. This whole defense is good. And you're on the road. They like to bark at you. It's going to be loud, just like the Saints. So I want to see this offensive line perform. That's it. for me.
Hitman, who you got your eye on?
Oh man, this is a tough one. I mean, I never get any of these right because it just never works out that way. So maybe I'll just think the opposite of whatever I'm thinking.
There you go.
It worked for George Costanza. Just do the opposite.
Oh man, I think as much as you think of both defense, I think the secondary is going to have to really not give up explosive plays.
Yep.
I mean, they're giving away too many. I mean, we would go. And they just can't give up explosive plays. I mean, you got to go a game with that front. It should be a little bit easier. And I know I'm not saying we got a great secondary and all that, but they can play better. So hopefully with Fulton and crew back and Hooker, they can kind of come together and bring a shutdown on 25 yards plus in this game. I think they're capable. So they do that, I think we win.
Music is playing. I'll say defensive front, defensive line, outside linebackers. I want them to make Watson's life miserable.
I like it.
Titans Countdown will make your life amazing. And they're coming up next. And then the game after that, and then post-game after that, going to be a big day of Titans football on 104.5 The Zone. As always, we will leave you with these two words. Tighten up!